My name is Jennifer Clark. I'm the Director of Business Operations and Development for United Ambassadors of Hope, which will then soon be Disaster Cares. And this is
Mindy Barrett. I founded United Ambassadors of Hope, and we're shifting to Disaster Cares.
So as far as I understood while listening this roundtable, that actually what happened in North Carolina last year actually bring you to start these actions. Can you comment that? Can you share your story? How was it?
I'm going to have Mindy start with that because this is all her. I came on very recently. So,
my name's Mindy Barrett, and I grew up in the mountains of North Carolina. The Hurricane Helen that hit those mountains in September was massively detrimental. Nothing like it has ever happened in the United States. A hurricane force wind with feet full of water hitting mountains caused massive flooding and over 2,000 landslides.
There was trillions of gallons of water.
Yes. Entire towns were literally washed. Like, the foundations of the houses aren't even there. I grew up there. I actually also survived the Maui fire. And so through my experience in that disaster, knowing what my friends and chosen family were going through, getting ready to go through, because they didn't even have communications for over a week. They didn't have data. They couldn't click a link. They didn't know. You couldn't even send each other pictures. So they were very isolated, and the situations that they were in were extraordinarily dangerous. There were helicopter runs, mule trains that were going in because the trees were so down. Goats. They had them going in with goats. They had them going with horses. I couldn't sit still. I had to be involved.
Thank you very much, because actually what impressed me so much, and thank you. I know it's emotional, but...
And it's been almost 6 months. It's been almost 6 months, and there's so many places in those mountains that still look like it happened yesterday.
There's still cars and trees in
Yes,
Swanada.
there's literally cars and trees in so many towns, in the road, beside the road, massive debris piles that have not been cleaned up yet, and we're at 5.5 months.
The thing is that, for example, when we hear in the news, just those people who are not in this area, right? That something happened. Of course, everyone heard about the North Carolina and like Maui, everything. But what happened next? Like, we hear this in the news, and after a while, it's just disappeared.
Yeah.
And they think people think everything is yes, and people think everything is fine. Like, they recover and everything is fine. But what we see, like you said, 5.5 months, and
we actually still have people that have used the supports, the I-beam supports from mobile homes, as footbridges over the rivers to access their homes. Like, they're parking out here on one side, and they have this support beam that used to be the bottom of their mobile home laid over the river so that they can cart their groceries by hand to the shack or the tent that they're now living in. I mean, it's unbelievable what's still happening.
Yeah, 6 months on, and they have used train cars as bridges, the back ends of semi-trailers as bridges in order to be able to have vehicles to transport goods. And this is still happening.
Yeah, currently. We had 5,000 bridges out.
Swananoa just now destroyed the carpet business and the CVS that literally was standing just on one pole. And there's the sewage from the town, so the sewer system from the town had been lifted up entirely out of the water, and you can see a 25-foot hole underneath. Now, across from that is a bridge that was the keystone to the town being connected. That just got reopened this weekend. Yeah. The I-40 just was reopened, and that connects.
One lane.
Yeah, that connects
one lane
Tennessee
was reopened from North Carolina to Tennessee.
Was
and
reopened.
What people don't understand too is we're not talking about this disaster that happened even just in North Carolina. This happened in northern South Carolina. There's a 300-mile range of places in Tennessee, South Virginia, North Carolina, Upper South Carolina. It's a massive area, and it's not on the news anymore. It's crazy.
And because of that, in terms of that, is when you look at the actual debris field itself, you're looking from Tennessee, so halfway north of Tennessee, all the way down into Lake Lure and Cherokee. Okay, so you're talking several hundred miles, and it's they believe a full 200-mile width, right? And all of that water came down through the mountains into a giant bowl in Asheville and swirled around and mixed everything up and then filtered down into Lake Lure, okay? So it took out all the towns with that, but along with that, it contaminated all of these areas, causing the greatest hazmat site in United States history. We're one of the worst disasters in United States history.
And the biggest Superfund site is already there.
Yes.
And it spread that around.
You have nuclear waste.
It's unbelievable. What just happened?
Yes, nuclear waste, radiation waste. You have the gases, gasoline. You have human waste,
petroleum products, plastics,
everything that you would have just from building debris. But then you also have the cost of human and faunal life. So the bears that were all in hibernation, they all died, and they're coming down. The ones that managed to survive are digging up the dead that are still there. And we have human remains that are in small form that are still within the mud and being contained. And they're not necessarily local, because you have victims that came all the way from Tennessee all the way down with that. And they're like this big. They're small. They're not going to be identified easily. And so cadaver dogs are still picking up the scent. But yet locals, like local professionals, are saying that they have already found all the victims, and that's just
true in their area.
In their area.
But all the people that got washed down, it's a very multi-layered mess.
It is.
That is going on
but
in
innovation,
that area.
I mean, miraculous innovation, miraculous communities coming together, volunteers from all over the United States and Canada coming in and helping, and none of the volunteers talked politics or religion or, I mean, anything. It was
Nobody
just
cares about division.
People coming together and helping, and it was amazing. And the amount of innovation that occurred needs to be documented and turned into training curriculum that we can then provide to first responders and the emergency community. So that's one of our goals, is we would like to take those lessons learned, to be able to interview the people who went through this and experienced it, and to find something great and joyous and useful and helpful out of this mass disaster. And so that's one of the things that we're working towards.
How do we use this tragedy and turn it into education for what they were talking about at the round trip, and for blue sky days, or even gray days, where it's not currently happening, but it still feels very heavy. What we've learned, the innovation that's happened during this disaster, literally has been unlike anything else that's happened inside the United States. And there's so many lessons to be learned. And we're pulling it together.
I think we have an awesome team.
We do. We have an awesome team.
Thank you very much for, staying positive even after such a tragedy. And most of all, thank you very much that you're such citizens who see it, understand that, and not just, staying away, but start acting accordingly, start to be active, and really turn it into, like you said, lessons, train the community. And I think that's what's needed so much. And I'm really sorry again for for what you went through.
Right? But you have to make the best of the situation that you're handed, and you have to help people in the future avoid what they can.
Exactly. I mean, and just look at this. If it wasn't for an unfortunate situation, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have met each other. We wouldn't be standing right here, being able to talk to you and getting our message out and talking about these things, so that we can then hopefully inspire and change and motivate the rest of the emergency community to do these changes. So we do want to try and find the positives and work out the really good things, even in the face of disaster, because humans are resilient. And when you have a heart for service, really nothing can stop you. So.
That's true. And what do you say? Would you say to the people of the United States and probably in different other countries as well, as ALLATRA TV is a volunteer international, actually, internet TV. And we actually, as ALLATRA organization, global organization, exist in 180 countries. The core of our organization, scientists and researchers, but we have volunteers across the world who spreading this message. And we also produce some reports, I mean the scientists, connecting the dots between all the data we see, including everything like the atmosphere, geodynamic processes, volcanoes, earthquakes, floods, like everything. And actually we do see that the natural disasters are growing exponentially right now.
They are indeed.
Yeah, and that's why we also, one of the messages which we're also spreading to the public, trying to, it's actually what you do in actions right now, but what do you say to the people, would you recommend from you actually, yourself who went through all of that, to be prepared, to learn, to educate themselves no matter where they are, and to learn actually what can happen in their areas and making sure they have a plan and understand what to do?
I'm going to take it first by saying everybody should take the opportunity to become what we in America refer to as a prepper. The lost knowledge that our mothers and fathers and grandmothers taught us needs to be found again. We need to remember folklore, and we need to remember folk remedies. We need to know how to take care of ourselves using natural plants and things that are around us. You need to be prepared for your 3-day, 3-week, 3-month, and 6-month plan, and what that looks like for however many people in your family. Okay. But the one thing that I think is by far the most important for any message, whether it be volunteers or emergency crews, is remember you're dealing with people. And you're dealing with people who have hearts and souls and feelings and emotions. And people who are in crisis will have emotions that don't dictate who they truly are as a person. Because they're going through something horrible now doesn't mean that they're an awful person. It means they're going through a crisis, and we need to take a step back and remember that and just tone down the volume and tone down the heat and try and be good to each other. We just have to remember, like, how do you want to be spoken to? How do you want to be treated if it was you in that situation? And have the empathy to get through this, because we never, as a responder or a volunteer, want to add to the crisis. But you're living through it right now.
Yeah. Great answer. And my answer to that is partially what she says of, learn to grow something. Yeah. Learn to grow something.
Be a farmer.
Yeah, even if it's on your patio, right? Get a flower pot, grow some lettuce, grow something so that you can be just a little bit self-sustaining. The other solid advice I can give people is know your neighbors. Yes. Collaborate, connect. Because when
the first one.
Yes, because that's the best way to prep.
Last ones you'd want to
right? Yeah, because everybody brings something different to the table, and everybody has value. So I have a friend that I love this advice. She says even a broken clock is right twice a day. Yep. So it says even those people that you don't like, that you don't think they have anything in their brain, they do. And you never know when you're going to find it, right? They're going to have some brilliant moment. But collaborate. Connect with your neighbors. Have a network. And create a plan together. The mountains in North Carolina never expected to get a hurricane.
That's right.
That they are 7 hours inland. How could that possibly happen? That's not something that you can prep for, because it shouldn't have happened, and yet here we are.
Yeah, and a flood with 140 feet. Some of the places were wiped out by 140 feet of water coming from a creek that was no deeper than your foot.
Yeah, it's crazy what happened. So the best advice I can give is yes, have a 3-day, 3-month plan, 3-week, 3-month plan, but know your neighbors, because when the hits the fan, those are the people that are actually going to show up for you.
And actually only together in a cooperation we can really survive any.
There's thousands of stories about how neighbors that didn't even know each other saved each other's lives.
That's true. If you want to add something, you can do it. But I wanted to say, really, thank you very much. And I'm like really sorry, but like I really deep feeling the way you're, caring for the people.
Right,
and now,
yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for getting the stories out there.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And
you.
thank you for coming up and talking to us.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Every time it rains, it's a
You
mess.
can see there's
over
one
and over
broken
and over
house
again
there,
right now.
but this all is gone, and there were houses everywhere.
Where all
You
houses.
yes, you can see that up here, like about right there, is where the water came to, and that's about 140 feet. See where the down trees are? And that house is unlivable. It's filled with mold, but it's broken. But all the neighbors' houses are completely gone. And then there's some of the debris field that you're seeing. And then this is a campground, and some of the debris field that's there. The campground actually had campers still there.
There's
That's
a
part of the
whole
video.
mobile home park in a town 6 minutes from my house that's gone.
There's the trees and the debris fields. So all of these mudslides that you're seeing that's coming down, these trees, that's what's tinder right now. So the fires, it's dry and the snow is gone. So with the winds that came through from Kansas this past week, they were like not quite level 1 hurricane, but they were like really intense winds. And so they kind of hit to the west of us and then jumped, and now they're like towards the east, and they're heading like Winston-Salem, and that area is engulfed. Myrtle Beach. So in South Carolina, but all of this wood is hard
on the ground.
oaks. So it's really old, like 200 and 300 year old developed hardwoods.
It's what everybody wants to burn for firewood, but it's on the ground.
It's on the ground
on
with
fire.
tons of kindling and small dry sticks. So one tiny itty bitty like spark is enough to light up the whole area, and very fast.
We lost 28% of our tree cover. It's on the ground.
Yeah, if you look on a map of the area, if you were to do an aerial, so the area of Black Mountain it's one of the United States gems. Okay, so in the fall, it is a huge tourist destination because it's like looking at gems coming from the sky, and you can see it in the satellites.
So beautiful.
It's so beautiful. It's intense. Reds, greens, yellows, oranges. It's incredible. When this hurricane hit, you can now look at a satellite and you can see one side of the mountain has all the foliage and the greenery and the bright colors, and the other side is all completely downed trees. It's
crazy.
It looks like someone came in and just lit it on fire and logged it all. It's crazy. And all of that is now burning. But this is what a typical debris pile looks like.
And
that's
they're
along
still
the river.
everywhere 5 months later.
They are. The debris fields, and I'll show you a picture of Swannanoa, which they're just now starting to, like that came down this week.
Businesses that have just been gutted.
That's a sewer line that came up, and it's a 25-foot hole. This is the bridge that was just rebuilt. There's a tree or a car that was in the tree over here.
Imagine the force it takes to wash away an interstate bridge. Like not broken, gone.
And then
it's gone.
The other part is, that's the sewer system too. The other part, I didn't really get good photo of it. I have video, but it's kind of weird. But we were driving along the train tracks up on Old Swannanoa, which is the main road. And the train tracks were twisted like ribbons of pasta. And underneath where the structure supports the dirt that holds the train tracks were big holes. And so there was like a little pile of dirt holding it, and then the iron was just twisted. And you're like,
there's no support for the train tracks anymore.
And when you look at that and then you go, well, where is that water source? You look to the right and it's this little tiny
trickle.
river. It's like you can step in it and it comes up to here.
But with all the water that came from everywhere else, you just ended up with this massive funnel system of water, and that doesn't even count all of the debris that was in the water. You know, all the people's houses, all the wood, all the boulders that were moved with that water all came through those areas. It's mind-bending what has happened there.
I've done multiple deployments to war zones, and I've worked on mass graves, and I have seen bombed out areas in Syria and Iraq, and it's nothing like what I saw in North Carolina. Nothing. It was just, I couldn't believe I was seeing it in the United States. It was unbelievable.
It's hard when you look at it. It's challenging to get your head around what you're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's been almost 6 months.
Yeah.
But again, 300-mile long area that's just been absolutely devastated.
I mean, we have really good, hopeful stories.
Of course.
I mean, some of the people I've met have just been amazing. You know, and there really is something that tugs at your heart when you go to try and help someone out and deliver supplies to them, and you walk up on a tiny 5 by 10 foot shed and realize that they're living in a shed that would house a lawnmower. We had one guy who was hooked up to an IV, had just gotten out of the hospital, and he was in a shed
Happy to
of
live
a
in a
stranger's
shed.
home, and the stranger was in a wheelchair, and she's like, well, I had a shed, and so it was a place for him to go, and so they rebuilt the shed on the inside so that he would have a place to stay, because his home was gone. It was just...
People are delivering what folks are calling tiny homes, but honestly, they're large sheds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're well insulated, and they have some electrical outlets and an overhead light, but they're sheds. And you have families of 8 that are living in there.
Yeah. But I tell you,
and they're grateful to be out of the tent.
That's the thing, is I haven't heard people really, like, there's been such gratitude and love and outpouring and humanity. It's, you know, if you take the politics aside and just look at the people's response, it's a miracle. And I don't know what anyone's faith is, I really don't, but you can look at this situation and tell that God's there.
God's hand is in it.
I mean, there's a light on it, and God's hand is there. And it's
these folks that are living in tents and sheds are the first people that will tell you, no, I'm okay.
Yeah, I don't need it.
Give it to somebody who needs it. They're literally living in a tent with their family of 6 and their dogs and their chickens. And they're saying to you, no, I'm good. Give it to somebody that needs it.
It's incredible.
So we've had to change our wording, and we've had to start saying, look, I'm going to leave this with you. If you find someone that needs it, I want you to have it.
If
Don't
not,
let it go to waste.
Yeah, use it. You
know,
do, and
because
that's
they
part of the
won't take
culture.
it.
It's the culture
It's
of
the
that
culture.
group. And the thing is that is what I'm trying, that's what I was trying to say in that discussion, is that if you go into these areas and you don't understand that that's what the culture is like, you're going to be stonewalled. You could have all the equipment in the world, all the good intentions in the world, and it will not matter. They literally will say, we're fine. You know,
because they feel diminished.
They're not a charity case.
They feel they have deep in their ancestral stories is self-sufficiency. And if you are not living up to that, you are less than, you are a failure, you are stealing food out of the mouths of the less fortunate. But they can't see themselves.
They're not charity.
Yeah.
They're not charity.
They can't see that they are now in that place. They just can't see it, and so they have serious resistance to receiving help. So you have to change your approach. Yeah,
it's amazing. It really is amazing.
Humans are incredible. They are messy, and they are also so beautiful. They're so beautiful.
Boy, the
These
stories.
people that have lost their homes and are living in tents are the first ones to volunteer. Like, they're the first ones. I've got a guy who lost his house, lost his truck, lost all of his tools, was a jack of all trades contractor, builds amazing barns freehand with chainsaws. He lost literally everything. He spent the last 4.5 months on heavy equipment, putting people's driveways back together, putting bridges back in, making bridges out of train cars, making bridges out of whatever he could find along the river so that people could access their homes.
Oh, and
magnificent humans.
We should shout out Gabe, by the way.
Gabe is amazing too.
Gabe is one of our volunteers who's just, he's just everything. He's so much help, so amazing, and so chipper. And all you have to do is say out into the air, I need something. And he's like, I got it.
I'll find it. I'll figure it out.
He just does it. And
Gabe's from Mississippi, showed up literally at my doorstep on Christmas Eve. I call him, his name's Gabriel. I literally call him our
Christmas
resident
present.
angel. And he has taken on working with individual families for the past 2.5 months, and he finds them resources, and he figures out how to get insulation for them, and he finds them
actually, that's
volunteers to put their houses back together. So sweet.
So what she's describing is, and I've seen this with some of our volunteers and with the group in general, is that what Gabe is doing and what he's learning is disaster care management. So he's been doing the job without the training. So that's the innovation I was speaking about, right? So he's doing the job without the training. And now he's doing the training, so he knows like what the additional stuff is. We have that with not just volunteers in our organization wanting to know, like now that they've done the job, they want to know what the official stuff is. But it's happening in other groups as well. So a lot of nonprofits have popped up, but they're starting to learn all these additional training things that are out there and available. Right? It would have been so much better had they known some of it beforehand, but they're taking that information and then going, oh yeah, well we did it this way, and this way. And so that's this whole new category of knowledge, and that's what needs to be captured and taught, right? And Gabe is a perfect example of it, but he is literally a disaster case manager, and he's amazing
actually, at it. His talent is actually permaculture and gardening and farming, and he's taken on this whole role as individual family savior. It's really magnificent. It's such an honor to work with people who are living through their hearts, and just showing up with whatever they have in just magnificent, beautiful, extraordinarily compassionate ways.
It's very cool. It's very cool.
It's an honor to work beside them.